Well, hello, English readers. Welcome to this new live read along of the graded reader adaptation of Jane Eyre by Charlotte Brontë. I'm Lydie Bureau and I'm an English teacher in France. I'm also the founder of Lydie's Book Club, in which I host live readings of classics like this one, of English literature or contemporary novels. And I tend to prioritize books that are written by women. Also, once a week, I meet the members of the book club via Zoom to discuss the chapters read over the week. We also talk about books in general and learning English. And what's new about this new live read along is, along with the 12 live reading sessions that I host on Instagram and that are accessible and replay for free on YouTube, I'm also going to host live workshops for the members of the book club, 3 live workshops. And the first live workshop will be this Saturday, and we will discuss chapter 1 to 5. And if you're not a member of the book club, then I invite you urgently to subscribe to the membership, and you can unsubscribe at any time. And also, if being a member is not possible for you, then those live workshops will be available on replay, let's say, or you will be able to purchase this 3 live workshops separately, so as an one-off payment. And you have all the informations on my in my newsletter, so make sure you subscribe to the newsletter to be aware of all the news and events about the book club. And also, if you want to attend the lives on Instagram, then make sure you follow me on Instagram. So today it's a special day because yesterday I wasn't able to record to host the live reading of chapter 2. So today we'll record 2 chapters. So first I'm going to read chapter 1, and at 2 p.m. I will host another live reading of the chapter 3. Okay, so today we're reading 2 chapters, sorry. So that being said, before I continue and before I do the recap of the chapters, if you want to know more about Charlotte Bronté's life and about this book, Jane Eyre, I invite you to listen to my podcast, the podcast episode 20, which is an introduction to Charlotte Brontë and Jane Eyre. So make sure, if you don't know anything about Charlotte Bronté's work or this novel, then I invite you to listen to the podcast. This way you will get kind of an overview of what this novel is about and get the context of the novel and know more about the writer. Okay, so let's get started now. So we are using this graded reader adaptation, the Penguin Readers edition. I love these editions because it's very well constructed, and you've got some illustrations like this, and you've got keywords that are written in bold, whereas here you've got an example, and you can check the meaning at the back of the book in the glossary. So it's very handy. And you've got some questions. If you're an English teacher, you've got for some before reading questions and also after reading questions and some grammar exercise at the end of the book. So it's so great how it's made. And you're gonna have codes at the end of each book. So this way you have access to the audio, the ebook, and also activity sheets and worksheets. So it's very well thought. So well done to Penguin readers. And yeah, so yesterday, so on Monday, apologies. So on Monday we read chapter 1 of the novel, and we so the novel is Jane Eyre recollecting her memories as a child and up to the present day. So in the present day, she is about 30 years old, and she's telling her story, and she's writing her journal basically. And the story starts when she is staying at her aunt because both of her parents have died. So she's an orphan, and it's her aunt who is looking after her. And she's got three cousins, 2 girls and a boy. The boy, John Reed, is very mean to her. He's beating her. He's very unkind with her, and she can't bear it. She really hates him and hates the whole family. As you can see, this illustration, this drawing really illustrates how hateful they are and how they look at her like a yeah, and with a little smile. Even they're enjoying the fact that she is being told off, and she's being taken here to the red room. This red room has a lot of meaning, and to make it brief, this red room is where her uncle, so Mrs. Reed's husband, died, and she really hates this room. It feels very scary, and it's all it's red, and well, it's very unpleasant because she's locked in this room. Basically, it's just a bedroom, but because she is locked and she is held as a prisoner, as we could call it, then she despises this room, and she's imagining ghosts and spirits, and yeah, she's in a complete dark in this room, and she's not she's really not enjoying her stay at her aunt's house, and the house is called Gateshead Hall. Yeah. So that was the first chapter, and it ended when Mr. Brocklehurst, who is the director, the headmaster of a girls' boarding school in Lowood, coming over to the house because he was called by Mrs. Reed as Jane is being rebellious, so she doesn't want she doesn't want to oops, sorry, she doesn't want to she doesn't let herself being um being abused by her cousin, sorry. And she replies back, and she hit him back as well. So Mrs. Reed called Mr. Brocklehurst because she wanted to send her away. And she's very specific. She doesn't want her niece, Jane, to come over the holidays and any weekends or whatever. This is her new home, basically. She has to stay at Lowood for now on. So yeah, this is it. That was chapter 1. So as you can see, a very hard beginning of life. She's only 10 years old, and she's already suffering a lot. Not only, first of all, she's suffering because of the loss of her parents, but on top of it, she finds herself in a very hateful home, and she's being harassed and put aside as well. At Christmas, she also specified that she was not invited to dine with them, with visitors, as they were having dinner, Christmas parties, and didn't get any presents either. So very lonely childhood, and she is growing very revengeful towards those people that towards her cousins and this aunt that are mistreating her. So let's continue and read chapter 2. Jane goes to school. 4 days later, a carriage took me out of Gateshead. Bit of light. 4 days later, a carriage took me out of Gateshead on a dark and rainy morning. Only Bessie was there to say goodbye to me. Bessie is a servant. 50 miles was a long journey for a 10-year-old girl who was alone, and I do not remember much of it. We passed through some small towns, and then, as night came, great grey hills were all around us. At last, I fell asleep, and when I woke up, the carriage door was open. A girl in a brown dress was standing outside. I got out, looked tiredly around me. Wind and rain filled the air as I followed the girl towards some stone buildings that had lots of windows. I was taken into a room with a fire. I put my hands next to the fire and then looked around me. I could see high walls, old furniture, and dark curtains. Suddenly, 2 women came in. The first was tall, and she was holding a candle. "Are you hungry?" she asked. "Yes, ma'am," I said. "Please get her some dinner, Miss Miller," she said, turning to the other younger woman. Then she left. The second woman took me through the building's long, dark corridors until we reached a huge room that was filled with 4 long tables. 80 girls sat round the tables on benches. They were between 9 and 20 years old, and all of them wore the same brown dresses. They were studying with their heads together over open books. They read by the light of candles. Miss Miller told me to sit. Then she shouted, "Put your books away, girls. It's time for dinner." Four of the older girls stood up from from different tables, and took the books away. Then they came back with trays of water and a small dry cake for each of us. I drank some of the water, but I was too tired to eat. When the meal was finished, Miss Miller said some prayers. Then the girls began to leave. Miss Miller and I followed them to a huge room with rows of beds. Miss Miller helped me to take off my clothes and gave me one of the brown dresses to wear in the morning. Suddenly, everything was dark and silent. I was very tired and I immediately fell asleep. When I opened my eyes, the girls were already out of bed and they were putting on their dresses. My body shook with cold while I put on my dress. I followed the other girls back to the dark school room. We all sat round the tables and waited. Then three teachers entered the room, and each one sat at a table. Miss Miller sat at the fourth table, which had the youngest children round it. I was called to this table. We said prayers, and then our lesson started. While Miss Miller was speaking, I noticed some writing in the stone over the door. Lowood Institution. So it seems like she didn't even know when she got on the carriage. She knew she was going to the carriage, remember? The little car of the time. She didn't even know where she was going. She knew she was going to a boarding school, but didn't know where. So then she learned that she was at Lowood Institution. Breakfast was porridge. I was very hungry, but the porridge was terrible and I could not eat it. We all continued our lessons with empty stomachs. So many of them didn't eat. At lunch, they brought us bread and cheese, which we ate hungrily. I sat next to a girl who had brown hair and looked about 13 years old. She was reading a book. "Is your book interesting?" I asked. "I like it," she said. Then she looked down and started to read again. But I continued to speak to her. "Can you tell me what the writing over the door means?" I asked. "What is Lowood Institution?" Oh, sorry, I asked. "What is Lowood Institution?" "The house that you are in," she replied. "It is a school for orphans, children who have no parents." Then she began to read again. At 5 o'clock, we had another meal. We were given coffee and brown bread, which I ate quickly. But I was still hungry. After that, we studied again. We had a glass of water and a cake before saying prayers and going to bed. And that was how my first day passed at Lowood. So as you can see, she's often hungry, doesn't eat much. She wears this brown, very plain brown dress. Not talking to many people. Well, it's her first day, so it seems like a lonely place, or this girl is not very keen on talking to her. Okay, let's continue. The days continued in the same way. Sometimes it snowed and we could not wash because the water was too cold. Sometimes the porridge was terrible, and sometimes it was good and we could eat it. But even when the porridge was good, there were never enough. Sorry. The girl who I spoke to on my first day was called Helen Burns. Her teacher, Miss Scatcherd, did not like her, and I often heard her shout things at Elaine like, "Your hands are dirty," or "Put your head up," or "Don't look at me like that." Sometimes she even hit Ellen. But Ellen was always polite, and she never shouted back. Slowly, we became friends, but I did not always understand her. If Miss Catchett hits me like that, I will hit her back. I said, "Oh, sorry. If Miss Catchett hits me like that, I will hit her back," I said crossly. "You will not," Ellen replied. "If you hit a teacher, you will have to leave the school. That will be bad for your family. We have come here to learn." Then she turned away. She liked to be alone and to think a lot. The months passed. Heavy snow fell during January, February, and March. The school was cold, and there were not enough fires. Our clothes were not thick enough to keep us warm. At last, spring came, and the days grew warmer. The sky turned blue, and the trees around Lowood were thick and green. But in spring, typhus came. Many girls caught it. Ellen and I did not catch it, but Ellen became very ill. I went to visit her, and she held my hand in her cold one. "You have come to say goodbye, Jane," she said quietly. "I'm going to my last home." "No," I cried. And then I lay on the bed next to her, and she put her arm over me. Look at this. It's a very sad moment in Jane Eyre. She's losing the only friend that she had in the school. Only a few months maybe after she arrived. So, yeah, it's very sad. "You must not cry for me," she said. "Please don't leave me, Jane. I like to have you close to me." And then, a few minutes later, my only friend was dead. The typhus passed, but many girls died, and some important-looking men came into the school and started asking questions. They learned about the bad food, the cold rooms, and the thin clothes that we had to wear, and they were angry. So Mr. Brocklehurst had to leave his job at Lowood. After that, things got much better. And things got much better for us. I stayed at Lowood for another 6 years as a student, and I worked there for 2 more years as a teacher. Then I decided that it was time to go somewhere new. So this is the end of chapter 2. Remember, this is an adaptation for A2 plus or upper beginner level. So the chapters are rather short, and you've got a couple of illustrations, which is very nice for a better understanding. So that was chapter 2. As you can see, her experience of Lowood is not so great. She is suffering of hunger, of cold, and she feels very lonely. I guess the atmosphere of at Lowood is not very joyful. So it's still hardship again. And on top of it, typhus arrived in the school, and a lot of girls died, including Ellen Burns. She doesn't die from typhus, but she has a very low condition, low spirit, and she's the fact that she's probably has very fragile immune system or something, and the fact that she doesn't eat properly, and or she doesn't eat much, and she's cold all the time, not wearing very warm clothes either, doesn't help those children who have very fragile condition. So very weak condition. So yeah, she dies in this bed, and next to Jane. Jane is looking after her, well, she's staying with her. And this moment in this passage in the original book is very emotional. I was very moved by that particular scene when Jane falls asleep, and when she wakes up, she was taken in another room, in her own bed, and she was brought back to her own bed. And when she woke up, her friend was dead, and she had probably died in her arms, like the illustration here. So yeah, it's very tragic to experience so many tragedies at only 10 years old, and that reflects also Charlotte's life experience, because as I mentioned in the podcast episode introducing Charlotte Brontë and her novel Jane Eyre, she was inspired by her own life experience at a girls' boarding school, and she was only 8 years old when two of her eldest sisters, Maria and Elizabeth, died of typhus or tuberculosis. This is a disease that derives from typhus, and she was very impacted, as one would, obviously, at 8 years old when your two sisters die at the same time, of poor conditions in the school, because when you don't eat enough and you are constantly cold, then hi, hello, welcome to the live. It's very hard to carry on and enjoy your time in the school where you don't enjoy living there. So yeah, that was chapter 2. I just finished the reading of chapter 2, and now I will end this live and start again at 2 o'clock for chapter 3. I hope that you enjoyed the live reading of this chapter. And make sure that you subscribe to the book club membership to have access to the 3-part workshop that I talked about at the beginning of this live. So in addition to the 12 live reading sessions that I host live on Instagram, I also host 3 live workshops the following week. So the first session will be this Saturday. And for you to have access to this first session, you have to be able to, you have to subscribe to the membership. And during this session, we will discuss chapter 1 to 5. And this way, you will be able to practice your English and let me know about your thinking or your opinion about the novel, about the characters, and what you think about Jane Eyre's life as a child. And yeah, anything that you would like to share in the book club about the book. So I look forward to meet you live, either Instagram or on the book, in the book club this Saturday. And the next session will be the following Saturday. And the third session, I can't remember which date, but it will be again another Saturday. So you've got all the dates on my Instagram post, and make sure you subscribe to the newsletter as well, because I also have information on that. So if you don't follow me on Instagram, then I advise you to subscribe to my newsletter to have all the information about the upcoming live readings and workshops. So I will see you in half an hour for the reading of chapter 3. See you. Bye-bye.